I just don't know how much people are ready for what's been going on. You are a threat to the new world order control. We're just trying to figure out how we've been lied to and who's been involved. Jacobs had Hillary Clinton at his personal residence in La Jolla to fundraise for her 2016 presidential run against Donald Trump. San Diego should be called San Jacobs, using her connections with John Podesta to get Sarah Jacobs into Hillary Clinton's policy campaign. Yeah, all the families, one thing I do know is they could be against each other, but they're all working towards the same goal, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And so it's that illusion of sides where it's like, oh no, they basically want to exterminate us and we are their research experiment. Mm-hmm.
That's the whole point. You're Americans. You don't bow down to some kind of a queen. No one voted for her. It's not your country.
Exactly.
2020.
We got away from her.
I should do that?
No, why?
Why? Missis O'Connor, also known as Melissa in California, is a citizen journalist. She was featured on Tucker Carlson Tonight, interviewed by Jesse Waters, Lawrence Jones, and other journalists. Missis O'Connor fights the evil with her skills of bringing it to light. Melissa had a fierce fight against the mandates during the pandemic, which she felt were unconstitutional. Melissa is a woman of God. During our first podcast, Melissa dug up deep into an infamous P Diddy and his ties with Mexican border, Nation of Islam, and even Obama. Check this episode if you haven't done that already. It's on our channel. Today we're gathered here to talk about another prominent families, the Jacobs, Clintons, Radys, and the San Diego University. As previously, I'm just gonna shut up and let you do all the talking. So I have noticed that you have this new article on your Substack. By the way, guys, subscribe to the Substack. The link is going to be in the description. And I started reading it and was like, right away, I knew it. We have to make a part 2 because just like I said and mentioned before, there are types of people that ones that read and others that are just watching, right? So I believe this kind of information has to be laid out in a video form. So that's why we're here.
I totally agree, and I appreciate it.
So let's start from the very beginning. I want to say, so Clintons, obviously everybody knows Hillary and Bill Clinton. The Jacobs, I want to say, I've heard this last name a few times, but I didn't think much of it. So let's start from the very beginning. How did you end up and what did you actually discover?
Okay, so like you, I didn't know much about the Jacobs, and I like to add the disclaimer that everything I've dug up is deemed to be credible, but it's not warranted. You can find all of this information yourself. There are a few things I've gotten from local sources that I've included, and I think those people that have shared this information with me and kind of put themselves, I guess, at risk a little bit. But how this started was I recently went to the University of California, San Diego, and locally we call that UCSD. It was a very concerning visit, and I can't wait to share that with the public. But before I do that, I have to set the stage for like what's been going on in San Diego, kind of how the university started and who's involved. And so that's how this article came about. Is I went on campus and I was like, how can these things be happening and who has been funding this and what's the history? And so as I started digging in, I found that the Jacobs family and the Rady families are heavily involved in UCSD. They are philanthropists in our county. Most people have heard the name. If you don't know who they are, I would like to show you a little bit of who you are, and you can be the judge of basically the fruits of what they have invested in this region.
And for how long have they doing this?
Yeah, so they both moved here in 1966. I'm pretty sure it says in my article. Ernest and his wife migrated from the East Coast, Erwin Jacobs and his wife not migrated, but yeah, they came from the East Coast. And then Ernest Rady and his wife came from Canada. And the more and more I discover it, I don't know, it just paints a picture like Ernest Rady didn't become a citizen until 2005. And that's when he started slapping his name on all these buildings all throughout town.
So he was a Canadian for 40 years living in the U.S.?
Yes.
Okay.
Making millions, billions, working on all kinds of things internationally while he was stationed here, heavily involved in the university, heavily involved in fundraising for the university, for the state of Israel within the Jewish population here in San Diego. And the Children's Hospital has his name on it. And that's really where this article comes, I guess, has been birthed.
So he's a Canadian with the Jewish heritage. He was the first immigrant to Canada? First generation?
I believe so. He's a part of the Bronfman family, and they're basically the elite family that controls Canada. And it's politicians and it's banking.
Who was the last name?
Bronfman. And it's spelled Bronfman, I believe.
I always thought that whenever I take a look at the Canadian department, it's almost all are French.
Yeah.
French last names.
Yeah, which is interesting. Basically, with all this information, if you're questioning any of it, I would just say, look where everybody came from. So everything right now that's coming out and all the information we're weeding through, you have to understand lineage, and you can't look at something in like a decade time block. You have to go back at least a century, if not more, and see the movements and the patterns all throughout the world to kind of understand what's going on, in my opinion.
Yeah, so the time span has to be minimum 100 years.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But it's so interesting that all of them just end up here in the U.S. Mm-hmm. All of them.
Right.
So let's continue.
Okay, so basically, I'll just read this to stay on track. I've become acquainted with the prominent Jacobs family after learning that Jewish Family Service, along with Catholic Charities and other organizations, was one of the organizations systematically aiding the illegal immigration at the San Diego County border. Through their various foundations, both Ernest Rady and Irwin Jacobs donate millions to this nonprofit, which saw a quadruple in revenue under this past Biden administration. Fortunately, it's just been reported that the Migrant Center run by Jewish Family Service is being shut down. And so since we last spoke, we've seen a radical shift in the San Diego border.
Correct.
Yeah.
So they donate a lot of money, millions upon millions. Mm-hmm. How do they end up getting money back? How do they profit from this?
I'm not exactly sure, but if we're talking about systems and frameworks at a very high level, what I've seen is, through the banking system or investments or other people, they're making lots of money. Irwin Jacobs is the founder of Qualcomm, and we'll move into that. Ernest Rady was in property and banking, as well as the Bronfmans. They ended up buying the Seagram Company, and so that was at one time the largest distillery in the world. So they're involved in business, so high-level business with lots of contacts, high volume, big money. And then they put that in these nonprofits, and everything is under the guise of like philanthropy. Mm-hmm. And you can follow the money high level to kind of see what's going on. Most of this is hidden and secret, and you want to look into one little thing and it just cracks open this massive investigation. So you kind of have to stay high level to keep it moving, but they pass the money through these channels, like it goes from their nonprofits into the university. You have like USAID funding, donating. You have Bill Gates. That's why he's a part of this article, because you have the Bill
of course, yes.
and Melinda Gates Foundation, who have heavily funded operations in San Diego through the charter school we'll get to, and UCSD. and then they put it into their operation like Jewish Family Service. And so my opinion is they're exploiting good-natured people, robbing from them, and this is an operation that is made to, it's run so you look the other way. It's run so you're not allowed to talk about it. And then it's run so you're like, oh, but it's, it's Catholic Charities and they're amazing. Christian and they love Jesus and they love people. No. And so just so everybody doesn't think I'm picking on one group of people, my question is, how has the CIA been running San Diego? And based on survivor testimonies of just horrible abuse, there are cults throughout our county where operations have been run, people have been controlled. There are cults that operate under the name of Christianity or Christian churches. It's all a guise to make you look the other way. So no one gets a free pass on like, well, that one group wasn't infiltrated and doesn't have bad apples in it. No, I think you name it, any type of group, organization is not exempt from being questioned if they have been a part of nefarious activity, just to lay the groundwork. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
No party preference.
Right. No party, no religion. Like the whole thing is good versus evil, and it's exploiting good people who have good hearts, who are committed to either their faith or their community, you name it. Okay. So speaking of Qualcomm, so Erwin Mark Jacobs was born in 1933 in New Bedford, Massachusetts. While studying electrical engineering at Cornell University in the 50s, he met Joan Klein, and the two married in 1954. He earned his doctorate in electrical engineering from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, which is MIT. And he was also a professor there. He was recruited to San Diego by the University of California, San Diego. And he became a founding faculty member of the university. So at that time, he then served as a professor in the Department of Applied Electrophysics, which is now the Electrical and Computer Engineering Department, from 66 to 72, and he helped launch the engineering school at UCSD. So this is happening, and then while he was a professor there in the early 70s, he collaborated with other UCLA professors to start the Linkabit Corporation. That's a digital telecommunications consulting firm for government defense and telecommunication industries. DARPA and NASA were among some of their first clients. That company was acquired by MACOM and eventually became part of Viasat, which has grown to be the leading satellite communications company in the world, and it's headquartered in Carlsbad, California. So the headquarters of Viasat are here, and they still possess the technology that was created by the Linkabit engineers. So you could say that the Jacobs and Viasat still, are entangled in some way. I found it interesting that one of Erwin Jacobs' grandsons works there. Okay, so in 1985, 6 Linkabit colleagues, including Andrew Viterbi, founded Qualcomm. And this is from their website. With no products, no business plan, and a very small staff, Qualcomm focused on creating quality communications. They didn't know it yet, but one of their ideas would change everything, not just for the company, but for the world.
1985, 40 years ago.
So this is when we're really seeing Erwin plant roots. So Qualcomm, if anybody doesn't know, is best known for its pioneering work in wireless communications technology, particularly the development of CDMA, which stands for Code Division Multiple Access, and 5G technologies, which are foundational to modern mobile networks.
Yeah, and they do all the chips for almost all Android, right? Qualcomm Snapdragon, all those chips are made by Qualcomm. Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I think like all of us, whatever we're holding in our hand, we have Qualcomm technology, pretty much everybody. One thing that was so fascinating to me is that after I published my article, somebody sent me this like video or documentary about some gentlemen who met with Qualcomm, and they say that they developed this technology and that it was stolen by Qualcomm.
Nice.
Which is scandalous, and that's allegedly, and they even went through a court ruling where they were basically they were proved that they were telling the truth, and then the judge changed his mind, if I have the details correct. So I think all of like I didn't even know about that when I wrote this article. I find that very fascinating. Okay, so just to give you an idea of like Qualcomm in the military and legislation. In 2024, Qualcomm spent over $7 million lobbying various governmental agencies concerning artificial intelligence legislation, 5G wireless technologies, and policies related to automated vehicle technologies. So our Department of Defense has been contracting with Qualcomm for years. One of their recent projects between the two focuses on actionless multi-factor authentication. And sorry, all of this is like nerdy, deep down in their info, but it's just the language, to back up what I'm saying. So I gave you the number, and then I told you that Qualcomm has collaborated with DARPA on several initiatives through the Department of Defense, focusing on advancing microelectronics to support defense applications and enhancing deep learning and data analysis capabilities through DARPA's Hive project. And then under that, I include a picture of Erwin Jacobs with Anthony Fauci at an event. I mean, they were just like from a panel. Not that they weren't there together necessarily, but I just thought that was super interesting to run across. Okay, so they're heavily involved in 5G and legislation to, further 5G. And one thing that stood out to me is, so you know how we've shown that the WHO, World Health Organization, is like this global governing body that tells all the countries the protocols that they're going to follow in terms of health. Well, there's a telecommunications version of that, and the Qualcomm is part of it. And let's see if I can pull that out. Where's that in my article?
So basically, they regulate all the kind of this technology to the whole world, how we're supposed to act, to do, and what to develop, and how to implement it in our life.
Exactly. There's a standard, and I am so sorry. I think I had it in a Twitter post. Oh no, here it is. It's the 3GPP, the Third Generation Partnership Project. So yeah, it's the telecommunications equivalent of the WHO. So they basically are coming up with all of these rules that are implemented all across the world, and they bypass voters and they bypass legislation. And I never knew anything like this existed. So that was very educational for me.
Yeah, but if, for instance, right now we have the 5G, right? So it's a very fast internet. It's good. But that's the bright side. What's the dark side, and what are you most afraid of?
Right. Yeah, because I mean, if you put on your tinfoil hat and go down the conspiracy rabbit hole, a lot of people say that 5G technology helped perpetuate COVID or was vital to the pandemic.
Yeah, I've read that.
Yeah, and like even in San Diego, I wasn't looking for this information, but I was down there in 2021 for a rally. And the owner of the parking garage where I parked my car mentioned that during the shutdown, no one was there. And I guess he would know because he's manning his parking garage. But that's when they were installing all kinds of towers throughout San Diego. So I think that's very interesting. I don't know what that means.
But I believe people are saying the same thing about the 4G, about LTE technology. It's like it's bad about 3G as well. But if we're going to take a look and, for instance, compare right now 4G and 5G, it's like day and night. So 5G is very quick.
Yes, which is great. I appreciate fast internet.
So I remember that was 2020 where the first talks occurred about the COVID link with the 5G and etc. And there were some people that were saying, we are entering the era of the Internet Things. And it was like, what is that? So Internet Things is basically everything, the mic, even almost the fridge, everything is going to be linked to the internet, right? Mm-hmm. That's why they want to develop and provide this 5G network to the entire world, because they want to connect all the devices. Mm-hmm. What for? I have no idea. But it's like, it makes sense, but at the same time, I don't have any need for my fridge to get connected to the Wi-Fi or 5G. It's like, it's going to tell you whether you run out of milk or no. So why should I?
Exactly. And I've been studying a lot about our founding fathers here in America, and they always argued back and forth when they were developing the Constitution, and we're still debating this. That's the beauty of our country, is this idea of centralization. So if you put anything centralized, basically it has one governing body overseeing it. So like with money, that's not proved to be very good. With government, I mean, that's like New World Order type.
With health.
Yes, everything. But then to counter that thought, I've also heard members of the intelligence community say that they, over the last 20 or more years, they've seen a decentralization of information. And when you can't see everything laid out on the table, you don't put together these pieces for yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's, I think, another apparatus of whatever shadow government or agency has been at play. That's like something they've used to kind of keep their information siloed. Yeah,
but the internet did its thing, especially after 2020. We found out a lot, especially now with the Doge and with Elon Musk and him freeing the bird, with the X, with Twitter. Mm-hmm. We got all that information, and sometimes I believe it's just too much. Just like one day ago, there was 80,000 and 34,000 page documents with GFK files. It's like, that's a lot.
It's a lot. I know. And I think it's a very overwhelming time because we're just trying to do the best with what we've been given.
Yes.
And so much has been hidden, and it's messy. I mean, it really is. Like having a presence online, certain things I say make people mad, and hopefully over time, we'll all understand, like have grace for each other and just say, we're just trying to figure out how we've been lied to and who's been involved. And it's not going to be clean.
Oh, no, it's not. And it feels like in the 80s or in the 90s when I grew up, it was way easier just to live. You didn't know much.
Yes,
it's like you were watching like 15 to 20 minutes of news every day, every night. That's it.
Right.
And now you can have it 24/7 in the palm of your hand.
Yes.
And it's just too much
Totally.
for most of people. Yeah.
And everything has like a good side and a bad side, including my personality or your traits. Anything that is a great part of who we are or what we have can also have a downside. Mm-hmm. So I think we're just figuring out how to navigate that.
Let's continue. Let's go.
Okay. This to me, well, I think so many parts of this research project were interesting, but I found out that Irwin Jacobs was Barack Obama's second largest campaign donor in 2008, and he gave a total of $2.12 million. And that was right behind Jeffrey Katzenberg, who is a Hollywood producer and former CEO of both Disney and DreamWorks. So I had no idea. Did you guys know that the Jacobs family was such a massive supporter of Barack Obama? And then I found a transcript that's still on White House archives where Obama said to a fundraising crowd that Irwin Jacobs hosted at his home, he said, "Thank you so much. Thank you. Well, first of all, let me just say thank you to Erwin and Joan and the whole Jacobs family. They have been great friends for, as Erwin noted, a very long time. I was like, wonder how long you guys have known each other and why. Interesting. And then he goes on to say, and they've got some really good-looking grandkids, and he laughs, that I had a chance to meet. I think that's a little creepy. Okay, so then I start digging into like, what have you done with Obama? And I mean, if anybody is out here and has done this research and you have a ton of information, you're awesome. I could only find like a little bit. But, on Getty Images, which is a great resource, it shows the Jacobs attending the state dinner of Barack Obama. Yeah, and that was when they honored Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. So when I look into all these players, there's a huge Canada connection. And when we dig into Ernest Rady, which is part 2 of my article, that I think will become more clear. But I would love for someone, if you know more about that, to explain that to me. Canada, like many of the Jacobs family members have married Canadians. And that doesn't, not all of them. So it's not like this black and white thing. It just kept coming up in my research. It's like Canada. It ties to Canada here. And okay, I wonder why. Okay, the next portion of my article is called Follow the Philanthropy of the Jacobs Family. And a lot of this is interesting because it's like all the different organizations and buildings and projects that bear their name in San Diego. And maybe I'll just quickly list those. Qualcomm is San Diego's largest tech company. Through the success of Erwin Jacobs, he's chosen to invest in globalist candidates and institutions and projects and universities that serve a larger agenda that, in my view, does not strengthen the average American. So after following the money, and there's a lot of it, so I'm unable to cover it all, we can see who and what the Jacobs have made a priority through their support. So I mentioned their support of Obama. They also contributed over $2 million to PACs supporting him in 2012. And then going into like local politics, these are my words, he practically ran Nathan Fletcher for mayor in San Diego in 2012 and 2013 because it was like somebody left. And so there was a
vacant?
Yeah, thank you. Yes, vacant spot. And then just a year after hosting Obama, Jacobs had Hillary Clinton at his personal residence in La Jolla to fundraise for her 2016 presidential run against Donald Trump. And that woman she's evil.
She's as good as it gets.
Yes. If you look, goodness, I really hope people can understand anyone who's associated with the Clintons.
So if I ask you, what's the worst do you think Hillary did? She did when she was the Secretary of State for 8 years, or the worst thing that she did was after or before that? Because there is a lot to talk about Hillary, right? Yes.
Oh gosh. I know, like how deep do we want to go?
Let's go.
Okay. I'm still learning about the Clintons, and like recently I've been trying to figure out, okay, what's their lineage? Who are they a part of? Because if you have to do research on bloodline families, and this is where you have to put on your conspiracy hat, because in my opinion, truth is stranger than fiction. But the Clintons are part of a bloodline family, and that's basically the belief that there's a new world order and there's 13 families that control the world. It's very messy. They change their last names a lot. They change
Both
their
of them?
locations.
Bill and Hillary?
Oh, I just mean in general. It's hard to even discuss this because there's so much nuance without I've been learning about this for 4 years. So to sit down and like give these high level little sound bites is very challenging. But I mean sorry.
So do you think this part of 13 families that they come from Hillary's side or from Bill's side?
Oh, I don't know yet because I haven't traced that. I'm still breaking apart the Jacobs and the Radys and the Bronfmans. It could be both because they like intermarry and...
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, like the families share children. Like it's just, you can kind of only talk about it case by case. And I have to say, I don't know yet.
It's like Hillary's head of staff, or who she was, Uba Ahmedin. She married George Soros' son now.
Exactly.
So it's all calculated. Like it's not because they love each other. It seems like, allegedly, right?
Yeah. I just think that like in the dark of night, these people are the most evil beings that have walked this earth. That's my belief.
Let's go to what they do on during the daylight.
Exactly. To keep you looking over here.
Yeah.
Like, oh, look how good we are. Okay. We are going to have a campus and we are going to name it the Joan and Erwin Jacobs Jewish Family Service Campus. And that's it. They donate to these huge institutions and organizations, and then the highest donor gets to put their name on the building, and they are cherished by all their family. And the rest of the people in town are just like, okay, you're so nice and great and philanthropic, nothing to see here. So that's one thing that happened here is the campus of the local NGO that aided illegal immigration over these last 4 years, Jewish Family Service, was named for Joan and Erwin Jacobs.
What's the Jewish Family Service?
That is a nonprofit that's been around like since the early 1900s, and it started to help the Jewish immigrants who are coming get assimilated, and I think it's been taken advantage of. That's my belief, to see the fruits of what they've been involved in. So they were the ones that were like setting up a lot of safe sleeping sites around San Diego County, and then you just have these parking lots full of people who need help, and they say that they're helping them, but they're perpetuating a problem. Jewish Family Service, like their revenue quadrupled in the last 4 years so that they could flood money into helping all these people illegally cross the border, and they help facilitate that, and they were one of a number of organizations.
But they have nothing to do with Jewish people. Because Jewish don't migrate from the Mexican border to the U.S.
Exactly. That's right. It has nothing to do with Jewish people anymore. And they partnered with HIAS and the United Nations. And that's all just one big racket. It all sounds great. Like, let's be united amongst the nations. And it's just this language that's used to make us look the other way.
And if you're about to critique the Jewish Family Service, you're going to be called an anti-Semite.
Exactly.
Because it has the name Jewish. Mm-hmm. That has nothing to do with the real Jews.
It has nothing to do with it, yes. And Jewish people in our community could speak for what they think of this. Like a lot of the stuff I shared about Catholic charities online, a lot of Catholics in San Diego said, I'm mortified by this. I'm not going to donate to them anymore. So don't pull that. You don't love this group of people. It has nothing to do with that. They're being taken advantage of. So anyways, UCSD's engineering school was also renamed the Jacobs School of Engineering after their $15 million gift in 1997. And then they gave an endowment of $110 million to support scholarships, fellowships, and faculty support at the Jacobs School.
But how did they earn their money in the first place? They donated $15 million just to get the name on the faculty.
Yeah, I think it's through Qualcomm, because at the time of writing this article, Qualcomm is valued at $182 billion, like probably around that right now. So if you look at Sarah Jacobs, who is Erwin and Joan Jacobs' granddaughter, She is our congressional representative, and she's maybe the second youngest in Congress, something like that. But the Times of San Diego released her tax returns in 2019, and I included a link in this article so you can see. But she's, her revenue yearly is like $9 million. And so much of that comes from Qualcomm shares. So I think they're just able to, sell their shares.
Yeah, nothing wrong with
that. Get a
that.
lot of money. And I always say, like, when it comes to money, there's nothing wrong with being rich. If you are wealthy and you have access to a lot of cash, you can use that in any way you want. That's your choice. But I think we have to look at, okay, how are these people using their money and their influence? It's not about having the money. So the Jacobs and Cushman San Diego Food Bank was named in 2011 after Joan and Irwin Jacobs and Stephen Cushman helped eliminate the mortgage on the food bank's facility in Miramar. And then the North County Food Bank recently took on their name. North San Diego County. The Jacobs Medical Center at UC San Diego Health opened in 2016, and that was made possible by the Jacobs $100 million contribution. And then many of these donations for other research initiatives are funneled through the UC San Diego Foundation.
So it's basically their city. It's named after their last name.
Yes, and at the bottom of my article, I'm going to scroll down. Oh my gosh, it's so long. At Joan Jacobs' funeral, one of her friends, Lee Goldberg, is laughing. She has like this maniacal laugh, and she goes, San Diego should be called San Jacobs. And it's after learning all this, I'm like, that is not a joke. Exactly. That's the goal here. Whew. Okay, so I'll breeze through this. Okay, what stood out to me is that today the Jacobs are UC San Diego's biggest donors, exceeding $460 million. They've also given to the, what I call American Civil Liberties Union Foundation, so the ACLU. And the ACLU announced in 2022 that it was renaming its list of pending U.S. Supreme Court cases to the Joan and Irwin Jacobs Supreme Court docket in honor of the couple's $20 million gift, which was the largest one-time endowment in the organization's history. So,
tens of millions of dollars.
So much money. And then I include like a tax return high-level snippet of the ACLU Foundation. Their total assets are $829 million. So when you look into all these foundations and these nonprofits, they are multi-million dollar, what would you call it, overseers of this money. So it's like, where's it going and what are they doing with it? And so when you have Trump, who's freezing this, defunding all these, like he's taking away funding for all these organizations, that's going to slow down their operations and their alleged nefarious activity. And so people are so mad about that, but it's like, have you taken the time to actually see what they're doing with this money? You know?
But at this point, what I've heard is they donated a lot of money just to get, because they love people, they're philanthropists. We're going to get to the part what's evil about that.
Yes, and I would just say to people listening, like, don't be so naive. And that's a part of the awakening process, is like quit like accepting that just because something is Christian that like it's good and it's okay. It's like, no, use the discernment that God gave you, trust your intuition, and evaluate like the fruits growing from these trees. Mm-hmm. And would you eat them or would you throw them in the trash? Okay, so another recipient of the Jacobs generosity is the San Diego Symphony, who has received well over $131 million from the family.
What did they do with all that money? $130 million?
Yeah, you get like the Radys shell at Jacobs Park, which are things that, churches are benefiting from and concert goers. Like, they're beautiful and they're wonderful. And that's what makes you look the other way and not look into these people, because you're like, wow, look at what you're giving to us, or look at what you've given to San Diego in the name of telecommunications and the Qualcomm stadium that used to be, or this medical center where all these people can be helped. And by the way, like, there are good doctors and nurses using these facilities.
Correct.
So just because you're in this building, it doesn't mean you have any association with these people. Like, you have to intellectually separate all of these nuances, Okay, so yeah, we mentioned the open air music venue named the Radys Shell at Jacobs Park. That's after $11 million donation from the Jacobs family for the construction. And then a recent donation of $10 million to the Signet Theater will support construction of a new performing arts center at Liberty Station, and it will be named the Joan after Irwin's late wife, who passed away in 2024. And then it goes on and on. The Jacobs family campus of the Lawrence Family Jewish Community Center in La Jolla was largely financed by Joan and Irwin Jacobs. They gave $40 million to their Joan and Irwin Jacobs Fund at the Jewish Community Foundation of San Diego, where Joan Jacobs served as the vice chair. It originally was established in 1967 as the Community Foundation of the United Jewish Federation, which that's something that possesses a lot of meaning and information and collaboration in the founding of the State of Israel. So for decades, this group has aggressively fundraised in the Jewish San Diego community to support the State of Israel. And Ernest Rady was their chair fundraiser at one time. I mentioned that. And then I include a link to more information on that with a super interesting and informative article called The Builders of Israel. And I think that was published by San Diego Jewish World. Yes. So it's just great historical context. So
Well, if that's true, because they're biased by writing this article.
you said that, not me. That's interesting. Yeah.
I don't believe anything that's on the internet, right? I have to check the sources. Who wrote this?
Yeah, that's a good point. I include another little snippet from the Jewish Community Foundation of San Diego's tax returns, and their total assets are $671 million.
A lot of money.
So they have a lot to work with. And then another very interesting and complex institute is the Salk Institute for Biological Studies, and that's a prestigious research institute here in La Jolla, California. It's known for its contributions to biology, genetics, neuroscience, and medical research. And it was founded in 1960 by Jonas Salk, who was the creator of the safe and effective polio vaccine. And that's on their website. I was like, whoa, look at that. Safe and effective. Where have we heard that before?
Like 4 years ago?
And so they also donated, $100 million pledge from the Jacobs. And it housed 4 different new centers that were built on the campus. So really quickly, the Salk Institute for Biological Studies is where the controversial physician and biochemist Robert Malone performed experiments that showed how human cells could absorb an mRNA cocktail and produce proteins. Those experiments, he says, makes him the inventor of mRNA vaccine technology. And then I just want to throw in that the NIH awarded Salk over $66 million in funding last year alone. So. And
Robert Malone was the most hated man for the last 4 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Banned from all the platforms. You couldn't interview the guy. The YouTube took down all the interviews with Robert.
And I just think that's so interesting. It's like he wants to claim
that he invented the mRNA.
Yes. But has that been beneficial for us, or did he invent something that could be beneficial that is not the same as the mRNA technology used in the
Also,
COVID
you're not
vaccine?
sure whether he's a good guy or a bad guy.
I guess I'm not saying either way. I haven't really done a deep dive into him. I've just seen a lot of people I know and trust have platformed him. And then I haven't quite understood the scandal. Like, where's the beef? And I think it's in those questions, if that makes sense, where it's like, are we happy that you invented that technology?
I don't think that he has an ego problem. It's like, that was me, that was me who invented the mRNA.
No.
He's like, I feel like he knows more than the public knows, or the government wants public to know, because he invented the thing. It's his child, so he knows all about this, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he was silenced because he knew too much of it.
Yeah. Maybe he knows things that can help us at this point. I don't know. Robert Malone, what would you say? So interesting. Okay, and then the main building at the recently renovated Museum of Contemporary Art in La Jolla is named the Joan and Irwin Jacobs Building in honor of their $20 million gift. And I post pictures in this article with Mayor Todd Gloria, like posing with them. And that guy is such a snake. He's awful. And how he got reelected, I have no idea. He is just like destroying San Diego week by week.
How did Karen Bass got elected? How did Gavin Newsom had his second term?
Exactly.
He's about to become the president.
He is not going to become the president.
He launched this amazing podcast. He wants to do the show.
Oh my gosh, this podcast is such a joke. What do you think about that?
I didn't watch any of it.
I actually can't listen to him for like the last 4 years. I can't. It just...
He uses a lot of gestures. He likes to show everything with his hands. He likes to dance with his shoulders.
It's so weird.
He's a good-looking guy.
Yeah, most politicians are, you know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, to make you... Actually, some are really ugly. That's... Oh, that's funny to even think about. Okay, so diving into the Central Library in downtown San Diego, Joan and Irwin Jacobs have given $30 million there. And then if you look at some of the events they've hosted, I just give you like a little snippet. They hosted 2 drag queens, and they called it the San Diego Public Library Pride 2021 Kickoff. Story time with Raquel, Ita, and Barbie Q. And then it says the age group, who's the audience they're going to be performing for, is preschoolers, elementary school age, and middle school age.
Preschool is what, 5 years old?
That's like 3 and 4.
They don't understand shit. Like right? Baby Bus. They watch Baby Bus on YouTube. That's all they understand.
They want puppets and colors and sweet stories that make them feel comfortable and secure. So yeah, I mean, and that stands out to me after I dug into the Gary and his wife, their charter school that they started here. They push all that stuff through there, and they've even had these same guests want to come. So it shows that there's an agenda. And what had me looking into all of this is like learning about some of the things that Rady Children's Hospital is doing. And I said, man, if I was Ernest Rady, I'd get my name taken off that building. And the same with the Jacobs, where it's like you learn about, if you have that authority, why aren't you using it? And my only conclusion I've come to after looking into all of this is exactly what they want.
Well, they do.
Totally fine with it. They celebrate it. You know, they're creating the pipeline for it. But it was that question where I saw what was happening, and I said, if that were me and my name was associated with that and my legacy in this town, I would march right over to those buildings and I would exercise the authority that I have in my community and disavow it and say, you stop that right now, or you take my name off that building.
You're speaking about the UCSD or the hospital?
Well, I'm speaking about the library, but also the hospital, and also, UCSD. I mean, any of it.
So what's happening there?
That is for another podcast.
Okay.
That is to be continued research. But UCSD is I'm just going to say it. I think the University California systems have been infiltrated by the CIA, and they're an arm. They're just like another arm or a thumb or a limb. It's like a mechanism to carry out whatever they're trying to carry out. It's definitely an indoctrination center. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of foreign influence.
China?
I haven't seen China so much, but could be there.
Russia?
I haven't seen that.
Israel? The only one?
Yeah, they partner a lot with Israel. They do a lot of exchange programs with Israel, but also other countries. Like their chancellor was born in India, I think. And so you just look at who's in charge, and it's like, was anybody born in America? And then you see how people came, and then you have the gaslighting message of like, we're a country of immigrants. It's like, of course we are. I'm speaking to you, you're a part of a wonderful family. Your child and your wife, and you came here and you immigrated here. And do I have a problem with you? No,
I don't know.
No, you haven't given us a reason to. Like you're contributing to the global problem that we have, and you're helping to use your time, your resources, and your life to crack this beast open. So why would I have a problem with you as an immigrant,
But if I started the foundation for my small country to get into war with, let's say with Russia or with China, because Lithuanians say, yeah, we have to slay the China as well because it's too powerful. Yeah, Lithuania is going to defeat China. Like, excuse me, in what city are they going to stay at what hotel?
I know.
It's madness. People won the World War III.
And then it's like, who's backing Lithuania? Your country's in cahoots with Ukraine, right?
They support each other a lot.
Yeah. And then who's supporting Ukraine? Like, who has the backing it's all about like the associations and everything.
The Autobahn?
Yeah.
they supported Ukraine a lot. And the result is 1 million Ukrainians dead.
Exactly, which is heartbreaking and it's awful. And so if somebody, I guess it's like also, let's use America as an example. So if in years to come somebody says, you're an American and you did this to my country, I would say no. Some shadow government, unelected people who went rogue did this to your country and our world. But what if they want to make me pay for that? So I do not want any people in this world to pay for the crimes of their government if they had nothing to do with it. And the same should go for Americans. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So
I want to be consistent through and through. There's like this dark tentacled power that has infiltrated all kinds of parts of the world, and it's us against them, and they're pitting us all against each other.
And no one elected them. And no one ever will.
Right. They have placed themselves, they have agreements, they have illusions. Yeah, and that's...
So would you like to see cabinet officials to be elected as well? Let's say Secretary of Defense of HHS.
Oh, I don't know. I've actually never thought about that.
Because these are the people that are not elected. Mm-hmm. Like with the previous administration, right?
Right.
Tony Blinken, he wasn't elected.
Right. And then like how these agencies have all this power.
Yes.
And then, okay, this is a good time to bring up the Chevron doctrine and how that was overturned to... basically like all these agencies have been given unelected power and Congress has outsourced their authority to them. So maybe it should be that they are elected because these offices have grown over time, especially in the last century. And I don't know if our founding fathers accounted for that.
So Fauci was the head of NIH?
Yes.
And he wasn't
he's
elected.
Unelected. So all these people having a hissy fit about Elon Musk, Bill Gates and Anthony Fauci are the equivalent. just in a different role.
Yeah, especially Fauci. He was a government official, and he was in the power for 40 plus years, right?
Yes.
40 years.
Decades. Right.
Decades.
Man.
You get 100% corrupt if you stay in power for decades.
Totally. My hope is that in the future we just see like more young people taking those seats, bringing in fresh blood. And I've kind of gotten to the point where I'm like, everybody who's just, okay, no, I can't make generalizations. There's so many people who are choosing to remain ignorant. And I think it's going to be our youth and I work with students so that I can help them think for themselves so that they can be the answer. As we get older, they're going to be leading us, and they're going to come in and not have all this indoctrination, hopefully, and corruption, and they'll bring in these new ideas and a new way of thinking, and we'll just kind of shed this old, dead, archaic evil. Like, it just needs to be shed out of our systems.
Don't you think that with youth will come more drastic ideas in the other way? So, for instance, no spirituality at all, more promiscuous, more drugs, experiment with your body, do what you want, live as you want, do it without will, etc.
I think we are setting the example for them, as mentors. And so, yes, if we don't get involved, so like 30, 40, 50-year-olds.
Gen X.
Yes, like it's our job we inherited a lot of junk and we have a lot on our shoulders to be brave and like call it out and bring that truth out. And I think we're going to normalize it for the younger kids, and they'll just be like, oh wait, this is what you do. And they'll at least have a choice in the information. And I know that they're smart enough and that they have, that love and power and guidance, I believe, to discern between what is good and right.
So 20 to 21% of Gen Zs identify themselves right now as LGBTQ, right?
Oh gosh, wow.
So their parents were Gen Xs. Mm-hmm. Gen X, I want to say, were the most tested on with all this hippies, drugs, new age, new religion, new spirituality. Mm-hmm. And they grew up with that, and they raised the children which are millennials, which are myself. Then the other generation is Gen Z, so 20% of them are gays. Prior to that, the silent generation was only 1%. So we went from 1 to 20%. That's 20 times growth. Mm-hmm. There's no chance that people are being born 20 times more gay than the others, right? So it says only about the indoctrination, about the information, about the options and possibilities. If you want to be this, and that, and then you choose. And now people choose even their own gender. When I grew up, I couldn't choose my gender, but now people can, mm-hmm. right? You can be a boy, a girl, or something in between, and 90 plus or 200 plus mm-hmm. other genders as well. So I believe with the youth, they can come with some great new ideas, but at the same time, they can be much more even manipulated, and they're keen on doing something new and drastic just to be separated from their parents, especially if they hate their parents or their parents' generations. Like, we're not gonna go this way, right? Because it took us here. We're gonna do the other way around at all. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't say that I would love to see more 30-year-olds in Congress. I would say I want to see more 45 to 60-year-olds mm-hmm. in Congress. So that's Gen X, maybe millennials, but definitely not the Gen Zs. They're just too young.
Yeah, I could see that. And then, to counter that, a lot of people will say, because I agree with you, but the counter to that is we're seeing more transgender and more homosexuality with our youth because it's more acceptable and open. So they'll just say that, like, oh, those people were closeted in the past. I laugh at that.
So you will never closet the silent generation. They don't give a shit what you think of them. They're 80 plus years old, right? And if you ask them right now whether they're gay or not, they're going to tell you the truth. They don't give a damn.
Yeah.
What do you think of them? But the Gen Zs, and especially the alpha generation, the new generation, they care a lot about what do you think of them.
Yeah, and I've been thinking about this, and like one thing this movement has done so well is provided an identity. So it could be anything, you know, it could just be like, we love, I mean, if they went this hard with like nature club, we'd have people outdoors hiking and running and like obsessed with botany. Like it literally could be anything. If you created a loving, welcoming, affirming environment, who doesn't want to be a part of that? That's like our human nature. And so we've just been played in that way, which is sad. So to me, the way you counter that is you aggressively affirm and create a true identity, which is that you're born the way, you know, you're supposed to be created, and that you're loved by God, and you do have a creator, and you're not a clump of cells that happen to develop into a human that's sitting here to float through life without a purpose. And so I do think, you know, we have also that on our shoulders to be the voice, the countering voice, and provide an alternative.
I believe like 20 years ago, people would say about themselves, I'm an engineer, I'm a doctor, I'm a writer, I'm a producer, something like that. Right now, people are always more say things like, I'm a cisgender, I'm gay, I'm a lesbian, I'm bi. So this is the part of their identity, not what they do, not what they do well in this life. They have the talent to write, to speak, or to be a doctor or an engineer. They say, this is, I am what is my sexual preference, right? I am gay, I'm a lesbian. Who cares? Nobody asks you whether you're a lesbian or, I never asked you whether you like boys or girls. I just asked you, what are you? And they're saying, I'm gay, or I'm lesbian, I'm cisgender. Why would you say that? And if you take a look at their Instagram bios, it's like always the flags, all the pronouns. No one asks you about this. Rather about your talents. Being gay or a lesbian or bi or being straight is not a talent. It's whether you are or not. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's craziness.
Let's continue with the Jacobs.
Break. So this family loves global education, schools, and this is something that totally fascinated me when I started looking into it. A global education is basically diversity, equity, and inclusion indoctrination labs. So that's the globalist mindset. It's, you know, that anything goes. The Trojan horse is equity. It's, we have to be equal, and in order to do that, we have to play up a minority group, and, you know, we have to make them feel special. Going, you know, piggybacking on what you just said, like, these people or whoever is made to feel special, like, wouldn't you want to join that club?
But this is not equality at all.
Right. No, it's
you're not going to get to school
poison.
Because you're white.
No, exactly.
Because we need more blacks or Chinese. Not even Chinese. They don't care about the Asians. It's only say blacks and what, and LGBT. You're LGBT, cool. You're going to go to our school. You're not? No.
Right. And another thing it does, it puts them in the driver's seat of determination of value. So it's like, well, I'm the one in the name of DEI that is going to prescribe you your value. And I'm going to tell you you're 2/3 value because of your skin color or your gender, but you're like 1 in, 3/4. It's just total garbage. Anyways. Okay, so through UCSD and Qualcomm, the Jacobs designed a Think-A-Bit lab for the Joan and Irwin Jacobs Center for STEAM Education, which is a global learning charter school in New Bedford, Massachusetts. So that's where Irwin Jacobs is from. So now he's doing, I just think it's interesting that UCSD is kind of involved, and they're making something that doesn't benefit this local area, but Massachusetts, which is where he has ties. The goal for the school is to become a high-tech high of the East Coast, and I'll get into what high-tech high is. Modeled after the first high-tech high charter school, which was founded in San Diego by Gary Jacobs. So they aim to prepare students to be global ready. What exactly does global ready mean? Like, when you hear that, like, what does that mean? And then Irwin Jacobs Elementary School is another school that was built in Jacobs' hometown. And there were some issues with the playground where it wasn't fitting the needs of the children. And it was interesting because the mayor was like, but it's designed to be an urban school. And so this is how we're going to use the space. And the educators are like, but that's not what the younger kids need. And then there's not enough room for the older kids. And he just wanted to boast about, well, but Irwin Jacobs gave us all this money, and isn't the piano lab nice and the computer lab? And that to me is the global model. It's saying we are an urban school, and so we're going to come in and this is what's going to work for you. And the local people are like, but that doesn't actually work. And they're like, there. Look at what I've done for you, you know? And that's kind of...
We know better.
Yes, we know better than you. Exactly. And then this was interesting. Somebody reached out who was a San Diego State University employee of 13 years. And they said any students that came from high-tech high schools had to participate in remedial courses simply because they were not taught the basics, such as how to write an essay. But they were, radical social activists from kindergarten on. Okay, that's a whole nother section about the schools, but I could try to quickly go through like the Jacobs and the Clintons. I was amazed to find that Irwin Jacobs had spoken at the Clinton Global Initiative. And then during Bill Clinton's presidency, his administration collaborated with Qualcomm to promote technological advancements. In 2000, Qualcomm committed $25 million, including $7 million dedicated to enhancing math and science education in San Diego schools through investments in educational technology K-12 teacher training. But what's in that training?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the, come here and you need to get re-educated because you're dumb and we know more. So, that's also a Trojan horse probably. And then the Clinton administration supported Qualcomm's international endeavors. The U.S. Commerce Department and the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative advocated for Qualcomm's CDMA technology in global markets, particularly in China. And I found a quote from a Newsweek article from 2001, and it said, Irwin Jacobs is obsessed with China, but he won't talk about it. Jacobs is a mild-mannered engineer and MIT professor by background, but he's also the chairman of Qualcomm. And and that's enough there. Okay, so then Hillary Clinton was paid over $330,000 from Qualcomm to be their keynote speaker at one of their, women, the convergence of women, technology, and innovation. And so she's come out 2 years in a row. And then he worked with Bill Clinton. Irwin Jacobs got an award from the Clinton Global Initiative. He got a Clinton Global Citizen Leadership Award. And then I found a number of pictures of him with Bill Clinton, which were interesting, along with Bill Clinton and Nathan Fletcher. And Nathan Fletcher with Biden, Newsom, Obama. It's very interesting.
Nathan Fletcher was a former San Diego mayor?
He was a San Diego County supervisor, but he was in charge through the pandemic. And I think we had a meeting, a Board of Supervisors meeting that lasted from 9 at night until 12:30 in the morning. And I think it was the longest governmental meeting in California history. And it's when he wanted to deem COVID misinformation a problem and combat it, which is basically an attack on free speech. And his wife made fun of us the next day, and Nathan made fun of us, and he was shaming everybody for wanting to take ivermectin.
That's 2021?
Yeah. It was crazy. And then if we look into, sorry, this is heavy. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm all ears.
Okay. It's a lot of facts, but it paints a picture. Talking about Sarah Jacobs. So she's the granddaughter of Joan and Irwin Jacobs and the congressional representative. And in the WikiLeaks emails, she's actually included in those, which is very interesting to me because these are like from over a decade ago. But we see this fundraiser, Mary Pat Bonner, using her connections with John Podesta to get Sarah Jacobs into Hillary Clinton's policy campaign. And so I'm kind of like, okay, why do the Jacobs, they're clearly running their family member, what benefit are they going to get through whatever policy Sarah is going to try to influence, or influence Hillary to make? And she ends up getting on the campaign and works for both Obama and Hillary Clinton.
What position did John Podesta have?
His most recent was that he was like the director of energy, or like climate and energy
during the
initiative
Obama administration, right?
For Biden, actually.
For Biden, but he had ties with Hillary.
Mega, yeah.
He worked for her.
I think he was her chief of staff.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would say so. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, there's all kinds of horrible things that have come out about his brother, and the whole Pizzagate is surrounding John Podesta. But, it was really cool. Meeting people in this county that are paying attention and they're finding their own intel. And we found out that he bought a house here in San Diego County. John Podesta did. And he and his wife own a property in Oceanside. And so for me, like after learning about what he could possibly be involved with and what his connections are, what does that say about Oceanside? That's where he's choosing to maybe live after he's out of a job? Or, and he disclosed that on his, there's like a financial disclosure you have to be when you're working in the administration. And so there is a record of him owning that house as rental property. But I have reason to believe that he is either living there now or has been recently. And that's very close to some locations that have been named for like MK Ultra projects and just crazy things that have occurred here that involve our CIA, possibly.
And everything is almost in the Oceanside area.
A lot of things are in that corridor that's right up against Camp Pendleton. So we see Sarah's tax returns. That's super interesting. UCSD and the Clinton Global Initiative University, UCSD sent kids to the Clinton's projects. So there's a relationship there. I'm just going to kind of breeze through these. People can read them. And then another thing,
I'm going to stop you right there
yes.
for a second. So this is the left, the Democrats. Does the right have the same thing? Universities under them?
Oh, yeah. I would say, standing by, I'm going to be consistent. What I said at the beginning is no one has been exempt from being infiltrated. So absolutely.
So who are those people on the right? The Bush family?
Oh, yes. Hands down, the Bush family.
Who else? Because on the left, we can name a lot of him. It's Obama's, Clinton's, Biden's right now, the Jacobs, all those, Bill Gates and etc. Right? But on the right is what? Bush. Who else? Okay,
so you have the Bush family. My jury's still out on Reagan because he introduced the Vaccine Injury Act of 1984 and took away all liability for manufacturers.
But he's dead. Reagan is dead.
Yeah, Reagan's dead. But, oh, man, the Bushes, okay. I believe they're also a bloodline family. Mm-hmm. And so if you're...
Did you hear that crazy story that Judge Joe Brown told, I want to say on one of the podcasts, that Bush has a lot of almost family ties with Obama? I'm gonna send you the link.
Oh, I haven't read that.
It's a crazy rabbit hole, but that's Judge Joe Brown. He's a legit guy.
Wow. Yeah, all the families, one thing I do know is they could be against each other, but they're all working towards the same goal, if that makes sense. And so it's that illusion of sides where it's like, oh no, they basically want to exterminate us and we are their research experiments. And a lot of this goes back to like Germany and
Austria.
Yeah, NAZIs and oh my goodness, and like where people have come and where they've lived. And then we've been told lies about people being like dead or hiding out in other countries, but they actually live here. I mean, there's just so much to go into.
A century ago, Europe was nasty. A century, even 2 centuries ago. That's when it all started with the Freud, all that stuff.
Totally. Oh, and sorry, we're bouncing all over the place, but I just learned that Woodrow Wilson, so I think he became president in like 1913. He was the one that brought progressivism and introduced it as a concept into our country. And so he basically believed that like the founding principles of our country were kind of outdated and stale, which is, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, sovereignty. And it's they're there, you don't know anything. I have a better model. But he was the first president that we had that had a PhD. So he was highly intellectualized, but he was inspired by the work of Charles Darwin, the evolutionist. And so it's these like godless, humanistic, ideas that come in and they're poisonous. And then we see like what he gave us and it wasn't very good. I think the Federal Reserve was established under his presidency.
1917?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyways. Okay.
So they're both involved, left, right, no matter who.
Oh, totally. Yes. And I think so when we're discussing these things, you really have to do a case-by-case basis. And also people change. People can turn away from these families and they can say, I want nothing to do with you. They can pursue a different path but I think I don't know that many people that make it out alive if they turn away from that. So anyways, so bringing in Bill Gates and UCSD, even with all the things that have been shared over the last few years, I had not seen that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation awarded $2.5 million to researchers at UCSD, particularly the Qualcomm Institute, to develop biometric identification suitable for infants and children in the developing world. And that brings up these elite people are actually the true racist because they do their experiments on minorities, or Bill Gates does a lot of work in Africa.
India.
Yeah, in India, it's horrible. And they've kicked him out. They found out he was involved and they're like,
that's true.
We don't want your garbage. Get out of here. Mm-hmm.
It's not a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, in India, when he was involved with their agriculture and they found out and they're like,
thank you.
No, thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Stay away from our children. The high-tech high here and Bill Gates and the divisive curriculum. This is the final chapter of my story. So High Tech High was founded by Gary and Jerry Ann Jacobs, and that's Sarah Jacobs, the Congresswoman's parents, in 2000 with the goal of rethinking traditional education. Its curriculum is designed to integrate STEM, which is science, technology, engineering and math. That's right. Mm-hmm. Humanities and social emotional learning.
Oh,
that's
my favorite.
Yeah, that's another
DEI. A lot.
Yes. In a hands-on, collaborative environment. High Tech High now operates 16 charter schools across 4 campuses in San Diego County. These campuses are located in Point Loma, Chula Vista, San Marcos, and Claremont Mesa. I've actually toured one. We toured one for one of our sons, and it sounded great. They're like, ooh, it's going to be project-based learning. There's a lot of creativity everywhere. collaborative environment. Sounded great. And it's a public charter. So it is, I think they do like a lottery system where you can sign up. And so it's still a public school, but it's very heavily funded still. The network serves about over 6,000 students from kindergarten through 12th grade, and they have a master's degree program as well. So the charter school's most significant funding came from Irwin and Joan Jacobs, and with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation giving over $41 million through the years. And in 2003, their foundation awarded other San Diego area schools an $11 million grant with a goal to transform them into high-performing small learning communities. So in his 2009 annual letter, Bill Gates admits that many of the small schools that we invested in did not improve students' achievement in any significant way. But a few of the schools that we funded achieved something amazing. They replaced schools with low expectations and low results with ones that have high expectations and high results. So that's not even measurable. And then social emotional learning is the Trojan horse for equity indoctrination. And then I have a friend who has recently opened up about how her daughter was in a high-tech high school, and it was just such an awful experience for them. And this was during the pandemic where, she'd been locked out of class for almost a full year. And the 5th grade students were returning to a high-tech high classroom. And they were told they're going to celebrate the Day of Silence, the Gelson's Day of Silence. And that's the Gay, Lesbian, and Straight Education Network. And that's just where, you honor gay people as 5th graders.
The Day of Silence.
Yes.
It's like they're dead or what?
I don't know. I'm sorry.
Make it make sense.
I know. Okay, so I included a little flyer. My Silence, My Story. I'm participating
Not my
in
story.
Gelson's Day of Silence. But aren't you an ally?
With who?
You have to be loving.
I
This
love
is
gays. I have no
loving.
problem with gays.
Exactly.
I have problems with perverts and child molesters and pedophiles.
And groomers.
And
exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a national youth movement. Aren't we so fortunate that our youth have this nonprofit to come in, and we want to highlight the silencing and erasure of LGBTQ people in schools, even though that's all we can seem to talk about. So I'm not quite sure how they're being silenced.
The question was,
Is
aren't we fortunate? No, we're not.
Oh, that's right. You're not fortunate. They're there. Yes. So it says over 4 in 5 LGBTQ students don't see positive representation in their curriculum. Nearly 9 out of 10 experience harassment or assault, and almost a third miss school because they feel unsafe or uncomfortable. But we can break the silence.
How do you represent gays and lesbians and bis? Like,
Yeah, you can do
include
it.
them in the books? People are people.
Exactly. You do it as grown-ups, and you can interact with, these great people in your day-to-day life as if they're normal people,
because
like they are,
Yeah.
just like you and
Spoiler
me.
alert.
Yeah. I'm not special because I have brown hair and the silly laugh. I don't know. But it's cool because we see like the frustration from the parents in an email chain about this. And there were some who fully supported it, and even the elementary school director at the time, who's like a principal, chimed in and said, I believe that this age students, they know what they are at this time, and it's good for them to be doing this. And that person has since left. And then the teacher, just wanted to make it a great, welcoming day, and that person has a new job as well now. But both of these employees of the school had pronouns in their bio, which I thought was funny at that age for elementary school. And then I wanted to read a quote. One parent said, "How much time and emphasis will be spent on LGBTQ topics? Although I'm an advocate for equal rights and support LGBTQ as well as being inclusive, aware, and tolerant of all different types of people at this age, I also believe these topics are more appropriate at home discussions. And the little time they have in person should be spent on actual academics. Is this something we can discuss? Does this curriculum, is it something parents can consent to in advance?" I may have missed that email. Please let me know.
Ooh, such a bigotry.
I know.
I can smell
I'm
it.
like,
It's in the air.
For anybody listening that wants to start name calling me for another thing, like that's what people feel like right there. Like, could I opt out? I support being inclusive. I don't really think we need to do this since we haven't been in school in a year. So it's just, what a mess. And then there was another thing that was revealed through all of this is like beloved high-paying teachers are being kind of weeded out, and they are recruiting lower-paid teachers that are like activists. So it's the Obama era kids that like they've come to roost. It's like they're now old enough from that indoctrination that he, made legal or forced schools to introduce. They're now like 20 and 30-year-olds, right? And they are in our media producer rooms. They're running the news. Like, that's what's happening.
That's why the ratings plummet. Thank you.
Yeah, so we figured
Good
it
job.
out. So it's like low-paying teachers, low-paid producers, but they're all, not all, but a lot of radical activism is happening. And so it's been a slow plan that is now bearing this fruit for all of us.
It's getting buried alive. Mainstream media is down all-time low, right? When was the last time you went to see a movie? Once a year?
Right.
Nothing to watch.
Oh, yeah. And the only time I see legacy media clips is when they're shared on X.
Yeah.
Which
That's
is funny. And there are still a lot of great people in legacy media, but as a whole, it's just...
They all start their own shows.
It's like
That's what they do.
Yeah. And it's like the newspaper equivalent before. We're in that time where like only a few people were buying newspapers, and now everything's being produced online for consumption. That's what's happening with legacy media. Like, people are stopping buying newspapers, and they don't want to like they don't want to turn on the programming television to get their news. So, okay, then with the high-tech high financials, and we're coming to a close here, in 2014, if we look at their, like, again, all these places have foundations. So UC San Diego has a foundation, which is like a separate flow of money. And a lot of nonprofits, if you look into them, they'll have, like, they might have two different nonprofits under their name, but one has their corporate name and one says foundation at the end, and they're separate EIN numbers. So they're totally separate flows of money. So people researching, be mindful of that. Same with the high-tech high. And in 2014, they had over 30 million in revenue, whereas in 2023, it was like under $600,000. So what during that time was being pushed through, and they're growing, so, but it's like, why don't they have all that being funneled through right now? And okay, then another thing that stood out to me, if you look at Irwin Jacobs' sons, he has 4 sons, and Paul Jacobs, when he was in charge at Qualcomm, was speaking at the World Economic Forum in Davos. And so you see more globalist ties there, which I didn't even realize. And then through some of his other grandchildren. And then...
Yeah, but to be fair, for instance, Javier Milei was speaking at the Davos as well, but he demolished those socialists.
Yes, Yeah, very good point.
It depends on what you're saying from the pulpit.
Totally. And a lot of people have been like, Melee's bad because he was there.
No,
That's true.
listen to the speech.
Yeah. And same with like the pictures of Trump and Epstein. And that's why everything is a case-by-case basis. My understanding is like you can't infiltrate the enemy unless you're around them. I think we may have said that last podcast as well. And then the end, which I think is something to read about, is all of the Jacobs' involvement in like different institutions in Israel. And this would not come as a surprise because they're Jewish, but also like an investment company, a foundation that goes and works with both Muslims and Jewish students right on the border of Gaza and Israel, and that's in the, what's it called? Abim village, I think. Or, I'm so sorry, I'm probably butchering this and I apologize. In Shahar HaNegev in Israel. I apologize, I didn't say that correctly. But that's about it.
So you said in the very beginning, you said that once you went to UCSD, that pushed you to write this article. What did you see there?
I want to tell you, but I can't yet because I'm working on putting it all in print.
Okay, so this is the part where you're going to speak more about the Radys?
Yes. So like this, what happened was I started researching just like with all the Diddy stuff, and this just exploded. You know, so I tried to find one little piece, but then I found this, and then it went to that and that and that. And then all of a sudden I have too much information for people. So I released this stuff on the Jacobs, and then part 2 of my article I'm going to be dropping very, very soon on Ernest Rady and his involvement here and Rady Children's Hospital. And then part 3 is what I learned about UCSD. And
it's going to put all the dots on the I?
Yes.
I got it. So everything that I've heard for the last hour and a half, I want to say philanthropists put a lot of their own money just to make this, let's say, this county or this state better. So from what I've heard of, if we don't put a tinfoil hat on our heads, it's like they did the good stuff.
Yeah.
What's behind the scenes that regular people do not see?
Right.
What is that?
Yeah, I think that's the question that I would just like to bring these people to the awareness of others and these places, and so that we can be aware. And I think a lot of it is hidden, but I think there's also, like, I get my information from all kinds of places. And one is also like survivor testimonies. And that's survivors of either MK Ultra or SRA, satanic ritual abuse, or being brought up in these mind control programs, which is like the CIA approached the Luciferians, and that's what MK Ultra is. It's the militarized version of SRA, if that makes sense. But seeing how these experiments and this research and how we are their experiments, how that flows through these institutions, and it's a decades-long operation. So my question is, like, how is the CIA still prevalent in San Diego County?
So you want to tell me that MK Ultra or SRAs are connected with the Jacobs, Clintons, and Radys?
Possibly.
So the Jacobs invested a lot in San Diego. Why specifically San Diego? Why not LA or Silicon Valley? Why this not a big town? It's not a big city. It's, I want to say, 1.6 million population, right?
We have, a little over 3 million in the city of San Diego. Yeah, so the county would be, bigger.
But territory-wise, it's not a big city.
No, but we are right next to the border. And so if you're, I've heard stories and testimonies of, an open border. And if you're involved in sacrifice, you need something to sacrifice. And there's a lot of information on that. And I think, like, for me, just speaking about this is basically like, I just don't know how much people are ready for what's been going on. So at minimum, this brings some of these people to the forefront. So you can just say, oh, they're not just involved in philanthropy. Or is their philanthropy a cover for something? And I think we're still at that high level. And I don't know if everybody's ready to uncover what has been going on.
I just wonder why they invest so much money into open borders. If we're gonna say, let's say, one party or another party is investing in the open borders because, let's say, a conspiracy theory says that they want to grow the new voters for their party, right?
Yeah.
So it does make sense. But all those rich families, why do they want the open borders? Because if they let a lot of undocumented people in, you'll get percentage-wise, not a lot, but in amount-wise, a lot of people that are criminals, and we saw that in the last 4 years, gang activities and etc. Right? So it's only a matter of time when those gang members, criminals, will come to your community, when they are going to affect your family or your loved ones. So it doesn't make any sense. Why do they want this country to be flooded with illegal immigrants? Why?
Right.
Because they own big businesses and they want cheaper labor, undocumented. Yeah, maybe that's the case. But I believe there's something in it that we don't see.
Yeah, all of it that I see is a destabilization of America.
Why?
That is the answer.
But you live in this country. Why wouldn't you like this country to prosper? Why would you like to demolish it?
Well, if you hate, okay, it all comes back to control. It's anybody or anything that wants total control, and they don't want us to be sovereign. So if we're the last, like, somewhat free nation, in some ways I believe that's been a little bit of an illusion in the last century. But if we're the last free nation and they're really patient, they're going to come and, like, slowly conquer us. And what is it, like, third and fourth generation warfare doesn't work anymore.
Yeah.
We won't be fought with planes in the sky or things we can see. So it's like a covert method. So all of this is done in secret. So if you want to call me, nuts or crazy, I mean, I don't even care. I literally don't care. The information speaks for itself, but that's a huge piece of it, is you have to understand that it has been secret and covert. So of course you're not going to see it in the headlines. That's the whole point. Or if somebody's like, well, I never read an article, or this wasn't reported on such and such news. It's like, exactly. That's the point. You have to put all the puzzle pieces together, and you have to listen to victims, and you have to understand that you've been lied to on such a massive scale in order to even, like, crack open any of this. That's my belief, at least.
So I mentioned before that Europe, let's say 100 years ago or 150 years ago, was pretty nasty, especially the establishment, right? The most powerful people in Europe were very nasty. Some part of them migrated to the US, and they created an amazing country. But now Europe went full bananas, especially in the last 2 to 3 years, maybe in the last year, especially now with the war in Ukraine and everything that is going on with So in Romania, the guy that won the first round in the presidential election, the results are dismissed and he's in jail right now, so he can't even run. Did you know that?
Wow, I haven't heard that. That's what I love, is what's going on over there.
In Romania, a few months ago, a guy, he won the first round. And they said that he had ties with Russia, and that Russia invested, I want to say, $100,000 or $150,000 into the Romanian elections, and that's why it affected, and that's why he won the first round. So question number one would be, any proof? And question number two is, if $150,000 can affect your election, you've got no democracy, right?
Yeah.
So the election result was dismissed, canceled, and the guy right now, I want to say, is in jail, and he can't run. So Europe, Romania, right? And we've got UK with people literally going to jail just for social media posts.
Oh, that's horrible.
Literally, people. The country is going overrun by Muslims, radical Muslims, not the Muslims from Saudis or United Arab Emirates, right? From UAE, from Pakistan, etc. They're going to implement this Sharia law. France is done. Germany is done with all that stuff as well. So Brazil done with Bolsonaro. The guy is going to be
So sad.
in jail for 25 to 28 years, I want to say.
He was put in jail?
Yeah, he got arrested because the indictment is he allegedly arranged not a riot, but he arranged a
that
coup.
massive protest?
Yeah.
Even though he supposedly won the election and now they're putting him in jail?
Yeah, they put him in jail.
And
So
it
he's in custody right now.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that. Wow,
So-
and they're accusing him of a coup. Wow.
And literally, the U.S. is the last beacon. Like literally, especially after November 5th, 2024. It's like we can breathe here. I'm so
Yes.
happy because I'm from Europe, and I see that happens in this beautiful continent, right? With this
Yes.
amazing culture, from France to Spain to Italy to the UK. I can at least breathe right here.
Yes.
So maybe they want to demolish it, but where will they go then? To Israel? If they wanted to go to Israel, they would do that right now. They don't want to live in Israel, though they're Israelites, they're Jewish. I don't know, if they demolish this country, what else? Other planets? It's unachievable.
Well, other planets. That's interesting. Wow.
So-
Yeah. Control. That's the word. And so you're an enemy. If you don't want to be controlled, like we saw with COVID, then you're the enemy. If you want to think for yourself and raise your kids and be healthy and be in the sun and eat foods from the earth, you are a threat to the new world order control of the globalists.
You see, there are a lot of people. There are a lot of things that Americans have no idea, and that you don't understand. You don't get it about Europe or other places in the world, since you already live here. That's a big continent, the big,
Yes.
big country, 50 states, right? So during the COVID era in Europe, especially, let's say Portugal, Spain, Italy, Germany, Norway, people obeyed so much to the governments. It's like they got the notifications, they got emails, calls. You got to get vaccinated. You got to get. It's optional, but you have to do it. You have to do it.
Yeah.
Always fear mongering. At the same time, here, people stood up. Maybe not in California. The majority didn't do that, but the minority did.
Yeah.
But let's say Texas, Florida, the middle of the U.S. You stood up and you said, no, we're not going to do it. It's optional. Okay, so it's my choice, right? My body, my choice.
Yeah.
I'm going to put it in myself, or I'm not going to put it in myself. At the same time, Europe was done. They obey. I don't know why. Maybe because of the monarchy, because people still worship their monarchs.
Yeah.
It's George V, right? The king, King Charles. So prior to that, Elizabeth II. Once again, not elected officials.
Right.
I have to worship. What are their biggest achievements? The biggest achievement of Prince Harry or Prince William.
The family he was born into.
Wow.
Bloodline. Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes.
And so people get mad at how's Prince Harry's wife?
Meghan.
Meghan.
Yes.
So they're being mad at her when she said when she met Queen Elizabeth, she had to bow down, and she's like making laugh of it. That's the whole point. You're Americans. You don't bow down to some kind of a queen. No one voted for her. It's not your country.
Exactly.
2020.
We got away from her.
I should do that?
No. Why?
Why?
Exactly.
I wouldn't bow down to a president.
Yes.
Maybe my mom or my dad, my kids. That's my family.
See, you're born to live here in America, because that's the American story. Is you
That's the
don't
spirit.
tell me what to do.
Exactly.
And I have been raised with, if you're being told what to do and they're controlling you, like, you look into that, because that's what we fled.
If
Right.
Mr. William Gates says that I have to eat this kind of insects or meat that was made from plants, thank you. But no, thank you.
No, right.
You do it for yourself, bro. Take a look at yourself. Look at the mirror. You look in the mirror,
Yeah,
bro.
he could afford to live off a few crickets.
Thank you.
Yes. So it's all about, like, these people have deemed themselves royalty and like the elite intelligence of the world. And I have just questioned that. Like, you should question anybody in a white coat. You should question, just because they went and they were indoctrinated by the Rockefellers system, that doesn't mean that they know more than you. Like, yes, science matters and testing it matters, but that has been infiltrated and corrupted. And so we just have to pray for discernment, ask for wisdom, and it will be given to us. And that's how we navigate this crazy disinformation war.
That's why you have to stand tall here in the U.S.
That's right.
Can you only imagine if on November 5th the Kamala would be elected? The whole world would plummet. We definitely would be on a World War III. Did you see the meeting between Zelensky and Macron? How did they touch the... What is that all about? What is that?
This propaganda and
people are dying in your country.
And it's just it's so gross. It's awful. But we're smarter than that. So
I hope.
I hope we can ignore them until they go away. And it's just like, no, you have to. It's kind of like when they said you're sick during the pandemic, like you're sick until proven healthy.
Yeah, you don't even know that.
No, you prove to me, why I should listen to you or why what you say is true. Like, it's not on me to prove to you. You prove to me.
A few days ago, I saw this picture on X. So on the picture, there was portrayed a family with two kids. So a dad is doing some barbecue, mom with the kids, and a few guns on the table, right? And even the cat is with a gun. and the title was, "What do you don't like about this?" It's like, European mind will never understand this. What's bad about this? Having guns to protect yourself, your kids, your grill, your barbecue, and your family. That's amazing.
Right. Look at Australia. They can't defend themselves against their Facebook posts because they had them turn in all their guns and everything. So
it's a sad story.
It is, all of it.
So, Melissa, I'm looking forward for part 2 and part 3.
Yes.
I would love this episode to air and for us to have already filmed the part 2, so people would watch part 1. They're hungry for part 2. Let's go part 2.
Let's do it.
Thank you. God bless you. And I just hope you wear all the armor of God and be protected, because the way the things that you do and the things that you uncover is interesting with all the families, Jacobs, Clintons. Mm-hmm.
Same for you.
Thank you.
I pray for all my brothers and sisters
Amen.
that are getting the information out here. You're a vessel, so we're just vessels. So thank you for everything you do. I'm grateful.